The first thing my mother said when she saw my wedding photo wasn't "congratulations." It was, "You need psychiatric help." 3 weeks later, my own parents tried to have me committed to a psych ward. Not because I was dangerous. Not because I was unstable. But because I married the wrong man. And the photo I sent afterward destroyed everything they spent 30 years building. My name is Amelia Carter. I'm 32 years old, and I grew up in a family where appearances mattered more than love. My father owned one of the largest law firms in our city. My mother ran charity galas like she was auditioning to be queen of the suburbs. Everything in our house had rules. How to speak. How to dress. Who to date. Who to become. And from the moment I was born, my life had already been planned for me. Private schools. Law school. Marriage to someone respectable. Children who looked perfect in Christmas cards. I was never treated like a daughter. I was treated like an investment. By 28, I was exhausted. I worked at my father's firm despite hating corporate law. I attended social events that felt like performances. I smiled at rich men my mother strategically introduced me to over champagne. Then I met Gabriel. And everything changed. Gabriel worked as a trauma nurse at a public hospital. He was calm, funny, patient, and completely unimpressed by wealth. The first time we met, I was sitting alone in a diner at 2 a.m., crying quietly after another brutal argument with my father. Gabriel sat 2 stools away drinking coffee. After 10 minutes, he slid a plate of fries toward me and said, "You look like someone who got emotionally hit by a truck." I laughed through my tears. That was the beginning. He made me feel human again. Not useful. Not impressive. Not valuable. Just loved. But my parents hated him instantly. Not because he was cruel. Not because he mistreated me. Because he came from the wrong background. Gabriel grew up poor. His father had a criminal record from years earlier. His mother cleaned offices at night. To my parents, that made him unacceptable. My mother called him socially embarrassing. My father called him a liability. But Gabriel never fought back. One night after another horrible dinner with my parents, I apologized to him in tears. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "They make you feel small." Gabriel looked genuinely confused. "Amelia," he said softly, "people only make you feel small when they're terrified you'll realize you don't need them." I never forgot that sentence. A year later, he proposed. And I said yes immediately. That's when the nightmare began. My mother screamed when I told her. Actually screamed. "You are throwing your life away." My father was quieter, which was worse. He simply stared at me and asked, "Are you mentally well?" At first, I thought he was being dramatic. Then things started getting strange. My parents called constantly. They showed up at my apartment unannounced. My mother cried to relatives claiming I was acting irrational. One evening, my cousin Olivia pulled me aside during a family dinner. "Amelia, your parents are telling people Gabriel manipulated you." I felt sick instantly. "What?" "They're saying your personality changed. That you're unstable." That word again. Unstable. Suddenly, little things started making sense. The concerned looks from family friends. The awkward questions. Even coworkers asking if I was doing okay. My parents were quietly building a narrative around me. And it got worse. 2 months before the wedding, my father invited me to lunch alone. For a moment, I thought maybe he was finally trying to reconnect. I was wrong. Halfway through the meal, he slid a folder across the table. Inside were printed screenshots of therapy articles about emotional delusion, impulsive behavior, and manic episodes. I stared at him in disbelief. "Dad. You've become paranoid. Aggressive. Irrational." "I'm getting married," I said shakily. "To a man beneath you." The coldness in his voice terrified me. Then he leaned forward and quietly said, "If you continue this relationship, people will question your mental fitness." I stood up immediately. "You can't control me anymore." And for the first time in my life, I saw actual hatred in my father's eyes. "You have no idea what people like him do to families." I walked out shaking. But I still underestimated how far they'd go. 3 weeks before the wedding, everything exploded. I came home from work and found two strangers sitting in my apartment with my parents. One man stood up calmly. "Miss Carter, we're here to conduct a wellness evaluation." I froze. "What?" My mother burst into fake tears instantly. "She hasn't been herself." My heart started pounding. My father handed the evaluator a stack of papers. "She's paranoid. Emotionally unstable. Isolating from family. Making impulsive life decisions." I realized what was happening. My own parents were trying to build a legal case to institutionalize me. I couldn't even speak. The evaluator asked softly, "Miss Carter, have you had thoughts of self-harm?" "No." "Hallucinations?" "No." "Extreme emotional episodes?" "My parents hate my fiancé." My mother started crying harder. "See? Every conversation becomes hostile." I felt trapped. Humiliated. Terrified. And then Gabriel walked in. The room changed instantly. He took one look at my face and understood everything. "What is this?" he asked coldly. My father stood calmly. "A necessary intervention." Gabriel looked at the evaluator directly. "Sir, I work in emergency trauma care. This woman is not mentally unstable. She's being emotionally manipulated by controlling parents who can't tolerate losing authority." Silence. The evaluator slowly looked between all of us. Then he asked my parents a question that changed everything. "Did your daughter consent to this visit?" Neither of them answered. "Because she hadn't." The evaluator packed his bag quietly. "This appears to be a family conflict, not a psychiatric emergency." And then he left. My mother completely lost control. "You're ruining your life for trash." Gabriel stepped forward instantly. "Enough." "No," my father snapped. "You trapped her." Gabriel laughed softly. "You think she's weak because she obeyed you her whole life. But the second she made her own decision, you called her insane." That sentence hit the room like a bomb. Because it was true. And deep down, everybody knew it. We got married quietly 2 weeks later. No giant wedding. No family invitations. Just 12 people who genuinely loved us. It should have ended there. But then came twist number 1. 3 days after the wedding, Olivia called me panicking. "Amelia, your parents are telling everyone you had a nervous breakdown." I felt numb. Apparently, my parents told relatives I was under psychiatric treatment and that Gabriel isolated me from the family. They even claimed our wedding wasn't legally valid because I was mentally compromised. That's when something inside me finally snapped. Not because of me. Because of Gabriel. He had done nothing except love me honestly. And they were destroying his reputation too. Then twist number 2 arrived unexpectedly. Olivia secretly sent me screenshots from my mother's private group chat. What I read made my blood run cold. My parents weren't trying to save me. They were trying to protect my father's business. Months earlier, one of his law partners discovered that I planned to leave the firm permanently after marriage. Apparently, investors worried it would damage the family legacy image they marketed publicly. My marriage threatened their brand. That was the real reason behind everything. Not concern. Not love. Money. Reputation. Control. And suddenly I realized something horrifying. If they successfully labeled me mentally unstable, they could destroy my credibility permanently. Nobody would believe me afterward. I cried for hours that night. Not because I was hurt anymore. Because I finally understood I never truly had parents. I had managers. Then came the final moment. The photo. A week later, my father appeared on a local magazine cover celebrating family values and integrity in leadership. I stared at that magazine for a long time. Then I made one decision. I posted a single photo online. Just one. It was a picture from the night my parents tried to institutionalize me. In the image, my mother stood in my apartment holding psychiatric paperwork while I sat crying beside the couch. But the real bomb wasn't the image. It was the caption. I wrote. My parents attempted to have me committed after I married someone they considered socially inferior. This wasn't about mental health. It was about control, reputation, and fear of losing ownership over their adult daughter. That was it. No screaming. No insults. Just truth. The post exploded overnight. Thousands of shares. Comments from people with similar experiences. Former employees from my father's firm started anonymously exposing how controlling he was behind closed doors. Then the biggest twist of all hit. A nurse from the psychiatric evaluation company contacted me privately. Apparently, my father had previously called twice asking how difficult it would be to place an adult family member under observation involuntarily. Weeks before the intervention. This had been planned. Carefully. Strategically. When that information leaked publicly, everything collapsed. My father's firm lost 2 major clients within a month. His law partners forced him into early retirement. My mother resigned from 3 charity boards after people started questioning her behavior publicly. And the perfect image they spent decades protecting? Destroyed by one photo. But the strangest part? I didn't feel victorious. I just felt free. A few months later, my mother sent me a message. Not an apology. Just one sentence. You humiliated this family. I stared at it for a long time before replying. No. I stopped protecting it. That was the last conversation we ever had. Today, I'm 35. Gabriel and I live 3 states away near the coast. He still works in trauma care. I teach part-time and finally wake up without anxiety crushing my chest. Sometimes people ask if I regret exposing my parents publicly. But they don't understand something important. Parents are supposed to protect their children's minds. Not weaponize mental health against them because they lost control. The night they tried to lock me in a psych ward, I thought my life was ending. But honestly? It was the first night I finally saw the truth clearly. And once you see the truth, you can never be controlled by lies again.